started. So we're sharing and you're going to share, okay? We're going to begin at the last half of the evening. I would like to request that all cell phones be turned off while people are talking. It is a distraction to other audience members as well as our participants. What we'll do right now is Christine is going to review once again the format for the last part of the evening, which is the at-large candidates race as well as the mayor's race. Christine.
Thank you. You all received this information, but for the public, I wanted to make sure you understood what the actual format will be. For the at-large race, there will be a 35-minute segment, 30-second open remarks, and a 1-minute closing. There will be 2 questions. It will be the same question to all candidates, and they have a 2-minute limit per question. For the mayor's segment, there will be a 54-minute segment, 30-second opening remarks, 1-minute closing remarks. There will be 10 questions in total, and we will alternate between the candidates as to who answers the question first. The person answering the question will have 2 minutes. The other candidates will have 1 minute to respond, and the first candidate will have 1 minute for rebuttal if they choose.
Thank you, Christine. Look how we get along. It's cooperation at its best. I would like to begin by welcoming you all here this evening, and that we will start with our 30-second opening remarks, and we will begin with our Councillor Joe Finn and go right down the table to Mr. McCarthy in that order. Thank you. Councillor Finn.
Good evening. My name is Joe Finn. I'm City Councillor at Large and the current City Council President. I just hope everyone understands, even in the midst of a mayoral race, how important the City Council race for at large is as well, and how important the City Council is. In our strong mayor model of government, it serves as the platform for one check and balance for any mayor. It requires a certain amount of experience, knowledge, and wisdom to hold that position. I believe that I've displayed that and I've earned that trust, and I ask for one of your 3 votes on November 3rd. Thank you.
Councillor McFarland.
Good evening, and I'd like to thank both the City Democratic and Republican committees for hosting this event. My name is Mike McFarland. I've been in elective office in the City of Quincy for 18 years, both as a City Councilor and a member of the school committee. And my wife and I have lived in Quincy. I've lived here since birth, and we've lived here since we've been married. We have 3 grown children, and Quincy is our home, and it's going to continue to be our home. And we're very happy to be here, and I appreciate everyone coming out to see it.
Candidate Dibona.
Thank you. My name is Noel Dibona. I'm currently here in Quincy, Massachusetts in Marymount with my wife, Eve, and my 2 sons, Aiden and Tyler. I was educated through the Quincy Public Schools, graduated Quincy High School in 1993, and furthered my education at UMass Boston while working as a 19-year business owner, Russ Dibona and Son Landscaping. I care about this community so much, and we have more to talk about tonight, and I won't get into those areas, but I only have a 30-second, and I want to let everyone know who I am. Thank you.
Candidate Liang.
Good evening. I want to thank Alicia Gardner, Christine Sajoni, and the Democratic and Republican City Committee for hosting tonight's event. I'm excited to be your next City Councilor at large. I was born and raised in this city, and I live and work here today. As I've gone door to door in our neighborhoods, I'm finding that our residents are eager to get involved. They want to help make our city better and be a part of moving our city forward. I want to engage more people and together make our city an even greater place to live, work, and raise a family. Thank you.
Excuse me, thank you, Candidate Liang. Candidate McCarthy.
Thank you. My name is Dave McCarthy, and I've lived in the city practically my whole life. I'm married to my wife Roseanne for 30 years, and we have 8 wonderful children that we brought up through the Quincy Public Schools, ages ranging now from 23 to 9. I've sat on the Quincy School Committee for the last 12 years and been chair of the Budget Committee, chair of the Health, Transportation, and Safety Committee, and currently the chair of the Building, Facilities, and Security Subcommittee. I hope that I can get your vote on November 3rd. I'm involved in Quincy and I'd like to stay. Thank you.
Thank you, McCarthy. Our first question, and there will be two, and each question you are allowed to attend, a 2-minute response. Our first question will go to Councillor McFarland, and we will then proceed down the table. Councillor McFarland, what councillors are primarily responsible to the needs and concerns of the residents of that ward? What do you believe your primary responsibilities are as a councillor at large?
My primary responsibility as councillor at large is to make sure that we give the citizens of Quincy value for their dollar. It's not about the stuff that
Excuse me, Councillor, I don't mean to interrupt, but for our audience and our members at home, could you speak into the mic a little closer, and to all other candidates the same? I want to afford you as much opportunity as the audience to hear you. Thank you.
My primary job as councillor at large is to provide value to the taxpayers in the city of Quincy. Every decision that we make in the city council mostly has to do with finances. People want new schools, they want more police and fire, they want better streets, sidewalks, roads, and bridges. We have to figure out how to pay for them. And no one wants more taxes. So you're out there and you're talking to people at the door and they ask you to reduce the taxes. You say to them, what do you want us to cut or to eliminate? Because the value that we bring is good schools to educate our children. Police and fire department that have manpower, training, and equipment. Streets and sidewalks that we can get together with the mayor and with our state and federal delegation so that we can leverage grants to do some of those projects. The biggest thing we do is all about quality of life, making sure that the residents and the businesses get value for their dollar. We look at every development project that comes in before the council because the development projects provide the revenue sources that are necessary to provide the services to the people of the city of Quincy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Candidate Dibona, would you like the question repeated?
Sure, why not?
What councillors primarily, excuse me, I knew I tripped over that word, responsible to the needs and concerns of the residents of that ward? What do you believe your primary responsibilities are as an at-large councillor?
Thank you for the question. You know, being a community activist, it's very important that you bring a proactive approach on overseeing the entire city. You still have the same voting power on the council as the rest of the ward councils, but working on a proactive level, together with the ward councilors, together with the mayor, on being on the same page with the vision and future of Quincy. Being a former Ward 2 Civic Association president, I understand how important it is to engage yourself with the community. Outreach programs, safety, all these other things that are very, very important for a councillor at large's role. Being on the school committee for the last 2 years, I've been able to work with all the principals and administration and the superintendent in these schools that oversees a $100 million budget of our 277 overall budget. It's very important to have an understanding and a relationship with all these other people involved in this city, working together to make it safe. That's the #1 agenda, making it safe. But as a role as a councillor at large is to oversee the entire thing. Work with these ward councilors. Work on sidewalk, roads, and tree improvement plans, DPW. There's all different areas that you can do as a councillor at large. It's very different than a ward councilor. Ward councilor is a reactive approach on the city. There's a problem with the street. There's a problem with this. You call your ward councilor. The councilors at large is more a proactive approach, and you can work with their ward councilor on areas that they want to bring you in on. You never want to step on anybody's toes, but you want to be a person that will help everyone. I'm a person that's willing to work with all different personalities and all different avenues I'm willing to work with anyone. This is a process that we have to work on in the entire city, and the voting and our homeowners and our taxes are very important in the process. Number one agenda, safety. Thank you so much for the question.
Candidate Liang.
So as an at-large councillor, I believe that I'd be able to actually work with the ward councillors because they're the ones that are speaking to our residents on a day-to-day basis. I don't necessarily believe that they're reactive. I believe that their job is to work with a certain group of people in certain neighborhoods, and as an at-large councillor, I'm able to work with every single one of them to make sure that the residents in specific wards know what's going on across the city. As I said earlier, when I'm speaking with residents across the entire city, people want to know what's going on not just in their neighborhoods, but what's going on in another neighborhood. We can supplement the ward council's work by having access to all that information and having one source of clear, honest communication so that all residents feel like they're a part of whatever is going on in our city. When it comes to the budget and the spending in our city, our residents know what's best and what needs to get spent on. I want to work with the ward councilors and talk to them about what concerns residents have brought up to them and then budget accordingly. We can't look at the entire city and say we know what's best for every single person in every neighborhood because depending on where you live, the issues are different. So unless we engage with the ward councilors, unless we go into these neighborhoods and talk to folks and find specific issues that we need to address, we can't move forward and say that one size fits all here and that's the final solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate McCarthy.
Thank you. I came in earlier tonight and sat through all the ward councils that went through with the candidates earlier, along with the school committee. And one thing on the school committee for the past 12 years is that people, and some people don't realize it, it's an at-large job. You cover the entire city. You get involved in all the wards, from Ward 1 to Ward 6. I heard tonight about Ward 1, they talked a little bit about the Maritime Center. I know the Broadmeadows Restoration Project had gone up and down, and finally they got something done there at Broadmeadows. Ward 2, they talked about the Fall River Bridge and the Washington Street Gateway that comes in from Weymouth. Ward 3 and Ward 5 kind of a combination of streets and sidewalks, but primarily the hospital was spoken about, which is very key. Ward 6, Mr. Harris and Mr. McCarthy talked about 2 new buildings down there in the ferry service. I think that I've been built over the last 12 years as a school committee member and also a community activist, because you're supposed to keep your eye on the ball when you're on the school committee, and as Mr. Dibona said, it's a $100 million budget, but you're a taxpayer, you're in the city, and you want to stay involved in all the wards. The budget, of course, is the number one thing that the council at large, I think, as Mr. McFarland mentioned, financially you want to look at it, but you want to be able to work with all those ward councilors with all those issues I just mentioned, both large and small. I think I'm ready for that. I think I've seen that across the city. I think I'm very familiar with all the issues out there, and I think that I can work very well with all 6 ward councils. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Councillor Finn.
Thank you very much. I think it's kind of simple, quite honestly, is that a ward councillor is elected by people who live in his ward or her ward, and it's expected that they are going to be zealous advocates in behalf of their constituency. And this is where political life gets very interesting. I have to answer to a wider constituency as councillor at large because I'm elected citywide. And the real truth of the matter is that oftentimes what's good in Ward 1 might not necessarily be good for Ward 6. Or particularly what one particular ward may be interested in may have dramatic impact on the rest of the city. I think what's required of an at-large councillor is the willingness to be able to bring that balance to the council, to be willing to speak up and point out when necessary that the emperor may have no clothes. Anybody who's followed the city council hearings or meetings over time has seen such instances as they arise. Whether we're talking about issues related to downtown development, where there's about 4 wards that converge with various interests, or whether we're talking about the acquisition of certain properties, or any of these things, oftentimes there's need for debate. I think the most important role that the councillor at large plays is ensuring that a broader debate goes on than just simply every ward's interest.
Thank you, Councillor. Your next question and final question, again, in 2 minutes. We will begin with candidate Dibona. Excuse me, I believe would be candidate Liang. Is it Dibona? I know it's all right. Shouldn't second guess myself. What do you believe is the most important issue facing this city today?
Thank you for the question. The downtown development. It is the umbrella of the entire city for right now today. Without this downtown development, we're not going to be looking at sidewalks, roads, improvements and stuff, and trees. This is going to be the forefront of the commercial-based real estate for our city. Something that hasn't happened in 50 years. Stagnant up there. This is the umbrella for everything that happens. If you look at the downtown development and you think of Seaport District in South Boston, you think of some of them. Those are the visions that I see for Quincy. There used to be a time when people used to come to Quincy from Duxbury and Marshfield and Hingham and Cohasset, Situate, to come to this area, use the restaurants, the storefronts. We need to bring that back. It was once there, and we're going to complement places like Alba with places like Strayer on the waterfront, places like Del Frisco's. Attract something that they don't have to go to the Seaport District. They come here to Quincy. We can take advantage of the meals. We can take advantage of the food tax here in the city of Quincy, as well as that downtown development. This is going to be safer for everybody, because that money and funding is going to also go into the educational program. We need a couple million every year for that schools. It's very important being on the school committee. There's more kids with disabilities, and there's more and less, actually, grant money that we're getting, that we're going to need funding from the city to put into these schools. The schools are so important because that's a direct correlation with crime. More education, less crime, safer neighborhoods, sidewalks, roads, tree management program, capital improvement plan, opioid epidemic. You can go down the line, but it all starts with the umbrella of the downtown development. And that is the most important area for the next 2 years. And I will serve you as a councillor at large and represent you as a small business owner. Thank you.
Ms. Liang.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. What do you believe is the most important issue facing our city today?
So there are 2. I talk about them a lot and I'll say them again. It's transparency and it's engagement. I believe a lot of us up here today have talked about the downtown development being the biggest issue across our city, and I see it as one of the development issues across our city. I look out and I see all of you in the community. I know that a lot of folks come from different areas in our neighborhoods, and you see that there's not just development downtown, but development in little pockets of our neighborhood as well. Transparency and engagement has to do with making sure that our residents are involved in the conversation from start to finish. We need to make sure, like I said earlier, to work with ward councilors, to speak with the residents where the development is happening in their backyard, and make sure that their concerns are being heard and considered before a project moves forward. During the process, we need to make sure that our residents are up to date on every step of the way, and as proactive as you are, sometimes things happen. So you need to make sure that our residents are very clear and know what solutions we're going to bring to the table. At the end of it, all of us as residents need to be able to see the big picture and know what's coming and not be confused along the way because there's a lack of information. I want to make sure that as your city council at large, we're a part of that conversation from start to finish, and that our concerns, our ideas are all being considered because we're the ones that are going to be here when that construction is done. Thank you.
I'm going to say the word development. I know we've all talked about the downtown, but I think it's development citywide. I was at the Asian community candidates night up in North Quincy High, and one of the comments I made was how great Wollaston Center and North Quincy up at Billings Road has turned out. It's vibrant, and that's what we want downtown, and I don't think anybody in here would disagree. But there's a few other things I think we have to keep on the radar. I know that the downtown is the biggest thing, but there is concern, in regards to the hospital up on Hospital Hill. I'd love to see earlier, Gina Ostis, the candidate for Ward 5, mentioned trying to work with other hospitals, maybe hospitals in town, Brigham and Women's, maybe South Shore Hospital will get involved, and try to put something together for Quincy as a large satellite that can take care of emergency issues and also have other issues up there, like a hospital, because we're too big not to have that. Other items that have been discussed in affordable housing has come up in regards to the downtown, and that's very important. A lot of the visits along the way in the last 6 months, Quincy's still a blue collar. I know there's some white collar in here, and I know the downtown might make it a little bit more white collarish, but blue collars here in Quincy, and we got to make it affordable for folks. So the downtown is at the pinnacle of everything, but let's pay attention to everything that's out there. We have a lot of issues out there. We have the flood zone issues that still might come up. We also have other issues with our services. We want to make sure fire and police are funded. And number one, we want to make sure education is funded, because that drives everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Councillor Finn.
Yes, thank you. Again, it may sound strange, but I believe in being totally truthful. And I want to say that I think the most critical issue facing our community, our city, is the same thing that I was saying 14 years ago. And I believe it's that whole issue of the planned, sustainable development of our community, of our city, the impact that it has, not just on the downtown, but on all of our neighborhoods. The visions of other communities, some that have been mentioned here tonight, none of them happened overnight. In fact, if you look at municipal development anywhere in the state, it's always long, it's difficult, and it's hard. And it's important to stay the course and keep moving forward. When I first ran 14 years ago, we had plans in the city of Quincy for about 35 years. And what happened to those plans is they were filed, shelved, put someplace to gather dust. In the last 12 years in particular, we've had 2 mayors, both of whom, to their credit, have decided to act on those plans and to try to make a difference. And again, I can't stress, it isn't easy. I think one of the most pressing problems with that is our aging infrastructure has created significant traffic problems around the community that needs to be addressed. We can't address that just by addressing the downtown. We need to have a citywide audit, so to speak, almost, of our 200 miles of paveway management to make hard decisions about how we are going to invest resources, scarce as they may be, to improve the situation for people who live here in the city of Quincy. Again, these are not things that are fixed overnight. These are the things that are part of our culture that we need to continue to work on and to build. And the best place that that type of discussion can go on is within the City Council.
Councillor McFarland.
Quincy is a city, and the most pressing issue with us today is balance. We just didn't happen. For over 300 years, Quincy has evolved. It's evolved from neighborhoods that say down in Housneck and Germantown and Adam Shore that had a boating community. It had an industrial community in Wollaston, Quincy Point, in South Quincy. And we had neighborhoods that were built on those core values. And what we have to make sure that we do, and development is very, very important, but what we have to make sure that we do is you have to keep in balance the neighborhoods that people that have lived there for 2 and 3 and 4 generations are still able to live in and to raise their family. And how we can do this through development is to make sure that we take the funds and development of the areas we've done, whether it's Crown Colony or downtown or State Street South. We've got those developments contained in an area, and make sure we take the funds necessary to keep the neighborhoods maintained. We hear a lot about traffic and about road systems and about infrastructure. Well, one of the largest problems is when the infrastructure in Quincy was built, we had horse and buggies. And Quincy has developed and evolved into a city now where we have tractor trailers going down streets, that the roadbeds underneath them, some of them on Hancock Street are cobblestone. They can't take these. So we have to take and we have to continue to evolve as a city and make sure that we maintain the balance of the new construction when it comes in, the new developments when they come in, so that our children and our children's children want to live here and we can make it affordable for them. Very, very important. This is our home. I've lived here my whole life. I'm not going anywhere. I want to stay here. And that's the biggest thing we can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We will begin our 1-minute closings, and we will begin with candidate Liang. Ms. Liang.
Hello. Thank you all again to my fellow candidates for joining me here and for all of you in the community for always coming out and showing your support. I'm excited to be your next city councilor at large. I'm running because I want to make a difference in the neighborhoods that raised me. I want to give back to the communities that taught me the value of hard work. I want to help other working families of Quincy and make sure that everyone has the same opportunities for themselves and for their families. I want to engage more people into the process and have everyone know that City Hall is working for them and working with them. I want everyone across Quincy to know that there's someone who will listen, a voice that will speak up for them, and a counselor who will stand up for them. I know I can be that city councilor. Again, my name is Liang. I'm excited for the opportunity to work as your city councilor at large, and on November 3rd, I'd be humbled to have one of your 3 votes. Thank you.
Candidate McCarthy.
Thank you. 30 years ago when we got married, we lived in Abington for a little bit, then we moved back to Braintree. And we kept crawling back to Quincy, my wife and I, and we wanted to bring up our 8 kids. One of the lines that we coined when we ran the school committee was the 7 best reasons to run. Well, I grew to 8 after that. And I found out over the last 12 years that there's 9,000 to 10,000 good reasons to run in the Quincy school system. And I found out that the community had just as many vibrant people in the system. I think that I can bring my 12 years of citywide school committee experience and community experience to the council. I'll come with commitment, intensity, respect, and make sure that the job gets done. So I humbly ask for one of your 3 votes on November 3rd. Thank you very much.
Councillor Finn.
Thank you to the Democratic and Republican parties committees for sponsoring this evening. 14 years ago, I had the honor to be sworn in as a Quincy councilor at large. And before that inauguration and the reception beforehand, I bumped into Ted DeCristofaro, who was former Quincy City Council President, the late Ted DeCristofaro. And he said to me at that time, he said, Joe, when you take office, everybody's going to be in there, no matter what the issue is, telling you exactly how it is you should vote and what you should care about, what you should do. But at the end of the day, Joe, you have to decide for yourself, and you have to vote for what you think is right. Over the last 14 years, that's how I've tried to live by that. Sometimes to the anger of some and to the joy of others, but always where I would be able to look at myself in the mirror the next day for my vote. We're facing some very critical issues as we move forward, and I'm convinced that that's the type of council you need, so I ask for your vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
Councilor McFarland.
Thank you very much. Thank you to both the Republican and Democratic city committees for sponsoring this event. The city of Quincy is a wonderful place to live, to work, and to raise a family. It's my home. It's where my wife and I chose 30 years ago to settle. My children went to Wallaston School, the same school that I went to as a child, and still in the same neighborhood. And why? Because it's a good, solid neighborhood with good, solid people. We've been blessed over the years in the city with good elected officials. Do we always get along? No. Do we always agree on things? No. But we sit and we talk them out and we work them out, and we try to do what's best in the city of Quincy. We are your elected representatives, and I am proud to be one of them. And I respectfully ask you for one of your votes on Tuesday, November 3rd. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. And let us give a round of applause to all 5 of our candidates.
Let's keep the finale for me, please.
No, I checked you off, man. I apologize.
It's okay.
I'll get this right at some point, but candidate Dibona, please.
Thank you, QATV. Thank you, Democratic and Republican Party, for hosting this event tonight. Listen, my name is Noel Dibona. This is my hometown. This is where I grew up in. This is where I'm raising a family here with my 2 young children, Tyler and Aiden, and my wife, Neve, in the Marymount section. I'm a community activist. I work with children with the Quincy Point Panthers youth football program. I work with veterans with the Sons of the American Legion, Morrisette Post 294, with the Flags for Veterans Island. I'm a former Ward 2 Civic Association president. I'm a school committee member. I work with the children. I've donated hundreds and hundreds of hours of my time for the betterment of this city. I'll continue to do it as a councillor at large. I'll continue to do this on a daily basis. I give so much back to this city that's given to me. You know, I respectfully ask for one of your 3 votes on November 3rd. Thank you so much for your time.
If our candidates for mayor can come up, please.
Shaking McCarthy's best friend.
John, we're supposed to shake your hand. What is that?